Sometimes the most intelligent person you know does not leave with an argument. They do not announce that they are tired, hurt, or slowly disappearing. One day, their messages become shorter. Then the calls go unanswered. Then, eventually, they seem to vanish from the life they once occupied so easily. People often call it coldness. They call it arrogance, distance, or overthinking. But usually it is something much quieter than that. It is the moment someone realizes that being understood has become harder than being alone. Intelligent people often spend years learning how to understand everyone else. They notice the pause before someone says, "I'm fine." They hear what people mean beneath the words they choose. They remember tiny details that everyone else has forgotten. They can sense when a room changes before anyone says why. And because they notice so much, they carry more than people realize. They carry the tension after a difficult conversation. They carry the disappointment hidden inside someone's smile. They carry the unspoken feeling that something in a relationship has changed. At first, they try to explain themselves. They choose careful words because they do not want to hurt anyone. They say, "That made me feel small." They say, "I need a little more care from you." They say, "I do not think you heard what I was trying to tell you." But sometimes, the more clearly they explain, the less safe they feel. Their honesty is called sensitivity. Their boundaries are called selfishness. Their need for quiet is mistaken for rejection. So they begin to speak less, not because they have nothing inside them, but because they are learning that not every room deserves their truth. There is a loneliness that comes from having no one around. And then there is a different loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people who do not see you. For many intelligent people, the second kind hurts more. They can be admired for being capable and still feel unseen. They can be everyone's problem solver and still have nowhere to place their own pain. People come to them when life feels confusing. But few people ask what happens when their own mind becomes too loud. That is when solitude starts to feel less like loneliness and more like relief. No performance. No need to translate every thought into something easier for others to accept. No pressure to laugh when something inside them is quietly aching. In solitude, they can finally hear themselves again. They notice how exhausted they have been. They notice how often they said yes while hoping someone would notice their no. They notice how much energy it took to be easy to be around. And slowly their old life begins to feel too expensive. Not financially expensive, emotionally expensive. Every forced conversation costs a little more. Every one-sided friendship becomes harder to ignore. Every invitation begins to feel like a question they do not want to answer, so they stay home one time, then another time. Then staying home becomes the place where they can breathe without explaining why. Some people will say they changed, and maybe they did. But changing is not always becoming colder. Sometimes it is becoming more honest about what hurts. Sometimes it is realizing that peace does not need to be earned through exhaustion. Intelligent people often disappear after they have tried everything else. They have explained, they have forgiven, they have waited for people to meet them halfway. They have given second chances that quietly became 10th chances. And one day they simply stop reaching. It may look sudden from the outside, but inside them, it has usually been happening for a very long time. Their silence was not empty. It was full of things they did not feel safe saying anymore. Their distance was not always punishment. Often it was protection. Protection from conversations that leave them doubting their own reality. Protection from relationships where they are valued only when they are useful. Protection from being the person who understands everyone, while no one learns how to understand them. Of course, disappearing does not solve everything. Solitude can heal, but it can also become a hiding place. There is a difference between choosing peace and believing nobody could ever meet you there. The right people do not need you to become smaller to stay close. They do not make your boundaries feel like betrayal. They do not make your quietness feel like something you must apologize for. They make room for the parts of you that used to stay hidden. So if someone intelligent has quietly disappeared from your life, remember this. They may not have stopped caring. They may have cared for so long that caring without safety became unbearable. And if you are the one who has gone quiet, you are not necessarily broken. Maybe you are learning that your energy is precious. Maybe you are learning that rest is not something you have to justify. Maybe you are learning that being deeply understood is worth waiting for. What part of your life have you quietly stepped away from just to feel like yourself again? If this felt like a conversation you needed, you can subscribe for more quiet psychology stories. Next time, we will explore why some people feel lonely even when they are deeply loved.